Okay, so here's something we talked about on the show. This report came out in December of 2013, about 7 months ago. So they discovered a second code hidden within the DNA, which is remarkable. We've had Dr. Kevin Anderson here. He's got a PhD in microbiology. He's touched on some of this, but this is a different finding, and this is really cool. So just to kind of give you an example of what's going on, the DNA is a manual. You know, the DNA does a lot to tell the body how to, build proteins and the cell to do a lot of work. The DNA is actually there's so much that goes on in the body, but the DNA is a big part of it. So, for example, it might have coding instructions to say, build a protein that's an antibody to fight infection. Well, at the same time, you might want to regulate that. So you might have another instruction that says, add more when it's cold outside. So what this is we've got two codes, superimposed on top of each other in the DNA. I mean, that's remarkable. How does that happen by chance? I've been a firmware engineer for 30 years, and we don't have programs that can do this. You follow the instructions, the machine code, and it goes one way, and it only produces one language, one set of instructions. So what happens then if you come along and you do have a mutation? So, for example, that part of the DNA gets mutated. Well, now both things aren't going to make sense, right? You've just corrupted two instructions in the DNA. It's going to be awfully harmful. And so here's what the doctor said, who was part of the team that discovered this. The fact that the genetic code can simultaneously write two kinds of information means that many DNA changes that appear to alter protein sequences may actually cause disease by disrupting gene control programs or even both mechanisms simultaneously. Now, of course, he has to still bow to the altar of evolution, so he says, these two meanings seem to have evolved in concert with each other. You see that a lot in the scientific literature. They seem to have done this because they can't explain it. It's remarkable that you have two codes on top of the DNA. In fact, Kevin Anderson showed examples of where there's actually up to 14 ways a DNA can code a protein. Can you imagine reading a book one way and it tells one story? Read it from the back to the front, it tells another, because the DNA is read backwards too. Or read it three-dimensionally. Read it, diagonally. Read a book diagonally down a page, and it tells a totally different, coherent story. It's remarkable. So yeah, we got to get out our baloney detector when we see the bowing to evolution. Here's what the famous evolutionist James Shapiro said. He said, there are no detailed Darwinian accounts for the evolution of any fundamental biochemical or cellular systems, only a variety of wishful speculations.